I think I have cast on fever. I want to cast on everything. 2 weeks ago, I had two finished objects. I had my Feels Right tee and my Gemma Polo, two big wearable projects that I had been working on for a few weeks or months. Today, I don't have any finished objects, but I do have a bunch of works in progress. So let's start with the work in progress that you have seen before. This is my baby blanket. I'm knitting it for friends who are starting IVF. I talked to my friend yesterday and she said that they are about to start. So this is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's quite an easy repeat with a lace feathery pattern, and I'm knitting it out of sock scraps because I wanted to give them a muted rainbow. They have sort of a muted aesthetic at home, and they had bought a plushie in a muted rainbow to hang above the crib as like a mascot for their IVF journey. And I thought I'd make them a baby blanket in the same color scheme. So these are all sock scraps. They are quite thin, and in between I have a bit of a thicker sock yarn as well. So this is a Drops Fiesta unicolor, and all of these are just scraps. Some of them are not even mine initially, but inherited from other people who have made a lot of socks. I'm knitting this on a 4.5mm needle, so it gives this sort of open texture. It's also quite bouncy. I am curious to see if this will bloom anything with blocking, because it is a sock yarn, so it's 80% wool and 20% nylon. So generally that wouldn't be most conducive to blocking. But since it is a lace pattern, I think it will open up a bit. And I'm now considering whether or not I just repeat these colors until I feel like it's a big enough size, or if I invert them. But I think that since these colors are all quite dominant, I would like to start over with the green one. So after the yellow one, I would like to start with the green. I think that is my game plan. This is quite an easy knit, a brainless knit, because the pattern is so easy to memorize. But the problem is that now it's getting quite large, so I can't bring it to work in my bag because I don't want to carry this big a bag. For now, this is an at-home project. Then in my summer knitting plans, or my spring and summer knitting plans, I told you that I was curious to knit a pair of lemon patterned colorwork socks, and I sort of just put that on the back burner, and then just after my last podcast, I got the urge to try again. So I wanted to see how different my gauge would be if I used a double pointed needle set, or if I used the tiny circulars from Chiaogoos. And I knit a swatch with 72 stitches, and you can see that one of these halves is a lot tighter than the other, and trying to put this over my foot, it works perfectly fine up until this point, and then it's just too tight. So up here are my DPNs, and down here are my circulars. So you can see, I mean, I'm the first to admit that my tension when it comes to color work is not the prettiest. So this is a work in progress. I am learning. I wanted to be able to make beautiful color work projects, but so far it's quite bumpy. And it's very tight. It doesn't have any give to it at all in the bottom. In the top, a bit more. So up here, beautiful lemon. I really like the pattern. I don't know if I love the muted yellow color of this, or if I would like it to be more of a pop of color. But the white and the yellow are both Drops Fiesta. So one of them is like a melange color. I think it's called Dandelion, and then the other one is just unicolor white. but just going from the same needle size, so 2.5 for the DPNs up here, and then switching to the circulars is just so much tighter. I mean, that was an interesting find because the DPNs are wooden and the circulars are metal, and I hear people say that they get different gauge on metal versus wood, but that the difference would be so drastic for me, I didn't think, because I'm already quite a tight knitter, and I tried to keep an even tension, which means for me try to relax a bit, and down here it's just very, very tight. So the stitches are granted a bit neater on the circular needles, but they are much more relaxed on the DPNs. My floats are quite satisfying, aren't they? You can see the inverted lemon. I try to not catch my floats if the float is smaller than 5 stitches. If it is 5 stitches, I'll catch it in the middle. But here I think I did have quite a few instances where I didn't catch the longer floats, because I saw Charlotte Stone from Stone Knits. She advised against catching your floats when it comes to socks to keep them stretchier, and I thought she is very much a professional at this. I should listen to her. So these longer floats are not what I would usually do, but you can see the stretchiness here versus the lack of stretch down here. But this was a fun experiment. I definitely want to knit a pair of lemon mittens. I bought the yarn in Norway, so I think I'll be knitting a pair of lemon mittens with this pattern. This is self-drafted but heavily inspired. So this little diamond I added in between the lemon slices, and I think I'm quite pleased with it, the pattern that is. And then my execution will be a different thing, and I will also be knitting the mittens in 100% wool. So this is a sock yarn, it is a nylon blend, and it is superwash. And I don't want that for my mittens. I want them to be able to felt together and be all squishy and soft and gorgeous. So that is my swatch. So, I mean, you could say that this is a finished object, but I can't really use it for anything. So next up is a nearly finished half of a project. I started a pair of socks for my father. My father has quite large feet. I did knit my father a pair of socks years ago, and he has been wearing them a lot. They have stone floors in my childhood home where they still live, and he gets cold feet and he wears warm socks, but he wears a size 46, which for my American friends I will put up here what that means in men's size. So this is a ridiculously large sock. I usually never knit larger than a size 43, because everyone else that I knit socks for is maximum a size 43, but my father is a 46. So I did knit him a pair, or I mean, I've knit him one sock so far, and it's very difficult to make it look pretty on camera when it's such a large, floppy sock. Anyway, the last sock I knit, I didn't like the proportions of the heel. I thought the heel like this looked too long, so I did shorten it by a considerable amount, and now looking at the socks, they look a bit snug, so I thought I'll just do the half of the picked up stitches for the shaft. I'll make a heel flap and gusset, out of those, and the heel flap as long as it is wide. And because last time I then made it wide but a bit short, and that ended up looking too tight. And then I decreased down to the original number of stitches, and then I knit and knit and knit, change color, and here I have started decreasing at each end. So for each needle I have 19 stitches. I decrease on every needle, so on each side there is a decrease of 2. I decrease every 2 rows until I have 9 stitches left per needle, and then now that I've hit the 9 stitches, I'll decrease every single row. So this is so far quite a pointy sock, but when I increase the decrease rate, it will cinch it in together and it will look a bit more rounded. And that's how I always did my sock toes. So one hecking big sock, nearly finished. This is a work project that I've brought to my work to sit with in meetings, or while I'm in the mandatory training, which is just listening and watching and reading things on the computer. So this is a mindless knit that I can do without watching. But I wanted to talk to you about the yarn. So this is the first yarn that I am using from our trip to Norway. So, I was sitting on it. This is the Alpakka Forte by Garn. So this is a House of Yarn sub-brand. This is 20% alpaca and 20% nylon. It's very soft. It's quite thick and fluffy compared to my other sock yarns, and that is what really made me curious to try this yarn, because the other socks that I've made for my father are, as I said, quite thin, and they are a standard wool and nylon blend, and this yarn actually calls for a size 3 or 3.5 for the needles, and I figured I want them to be a lot thicker than the last pair I made him, because large feet deserve to be warm in winter. So I got the yarn in 3 different shades of blue and made this patchwork looking sock. I hope you'll love them. Okay, so I finished filming just a few minutes ago, but I realized that I forgot to tell you about one of my projects that was just such a brain burst. This was a spur of the moment, very fun idea, and I didn't know if it would work. So I want to knit a Rubik's Cube tissue box cover, and this is my first side. So this was both a swatch and a proof of concept, because I wanted to see if it would work. This is also scraps in sock yarn, and the black is an acrylic that I just wouldn't use for anything else. And hang on, which side is up and down? This, I think, is the way. This is the way. So I'll be knitting a few more of these when I have the time. Is that the song of the century? When I have the time, I'll knit more. And then at one point or another, I'll seam them together into a tissue box cover, because I think that my kids at work will love this. So yeah. So that is that for my works in progress. A lot of colour, a lot of small needle sizes again. Feels so standard for me to be using my 2.5mm needles. This feels like home. The knitting on bigger needles for the Gemma Polo felt odd. The Feels Right tee on a 3.5mm needle felt okay, but these tiny needles, this is where I feel the best. So when it comes to purchases, I did make a lot of yarn purchases since my last knitting podcast, but I figured I already uploaded a video. It's right here. It's when a knitter visits Norway, yarn happens. I went through the trip, how we drove, the different little villages that we visited with some photos and some clips. So I'll just link the video here and in the end card, and you can click on that to see my purchases from my trip to Norway. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please do like it. If you want to, you can go ahead and click subscribe. And as I said, this is my yarn haul from Norway. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Take care.